All right, so I've got the live up and running just so I can make sure it's up and running for everyone to see. And in just a moment, we will start today's training on keeping it simple or not overcomplicating it, depending on what version of that you want to cover today. Looks like we are live, and there we go. Enough places to get this started in just a moment. I'm background noise. I'm excited for today's topic. I think it's the perfect mix of me working my device properly. I think it's a perfect mix. In just a moment, we're going to kick off a conversation about not only keeping your carrier portfolio simple, but also not keeping your life complicated. I think it's very easy, as I get all the settings correct on Facebook this morning, to work with one or two companies, but to overcomplicate your business. So as it is now 9 o'clock, we are live on Free Conference Call HD, live on StreamYard, YouTube, and Facebook. Appreciate each and every one of you guys being here today, as we're going to take the next 60 to maybe 70 minutes or so to educate, entertain, and to get everybody ready to close this week in a positive and a productive manner. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to Dynamic Friday Live again. I wanted to thank each and every one of you who took the opportunity last week to catch us on Facebook, to watch it on StreamYard, to view it on YouTube, since it was pre-recorded. Even though we couldn't be with you live last Friday, we wanted to make sure that we took the time to put the conversation and the content together, because we know it's an important part of your everyday routine. It's an important part of your weekly routine. And as we talk about routines today, I think it was important to recognize that that was just as important as it was today. So if you were there last week pre-recorded, thanks for watching. If you're here with us today, equally greatly appreciate it. As we settle into today's live conversation, I want to remind you of the format in case this is new to you, in case you've never heard of it before, in case you're watching it now and want to catch it again next week. First, for the first 25-ish or so minutes, we are live on our agency conference call line. You can listen in on the phone if, say, you're on your way into the field, just the same way you can listen in every single weekday at 9 a.m. Eastern. That conference call number is available across social media. If you're watching and you don't have it, post in the comments below so that you can listen in to the trainings that we do every single day. We just tend to broadcast the Friday one live as well. So the first 25 minutes is a conversation on my open and Adam Sales Week. And then the back half of the conversation shifts off of Free Conference Call HD and exclusively live across social media, where we're going to talk about keeping your carrier portfolio simple so that you can make more money. In the middle of today's conversation, as you guys are used to, Adam's going to share some sales experiences from the field. And why is that important? Well, I'll tell you why. As I said yesterday, I was listening to some training on YouTube that it really looked good. Looks better than anything I can produce. The sound quality was great. Pictures were on target. All of it was awesome. But the content wasn't good. Like the actual training they were giving, the actual suggestions they were making about a free look close was bad. Why is that? Is the person that was doing the training hasn't sold a policy in probably the length of some of your kids' lives. Why is it important that we put Adam's sales content and his experiences in the field in the middle of the Friday training? Because it's actually taking place. It's stuff that he did, lived, and experienced, stuff that worked, stuff that didn't, stuff that'll make all of us better. And I always enjoy that being a part of the Friday conversation. As a part of Dynamic Friday, if you're watching live, I want to encourage you to comment if there's anything in the conversation that really catches your ear, a question that you might have, or just simply where you're watching. For those in our core audience and our core agency partners, if you happen to catch this content later, I really appreciate if you guys would comment on it below for one simple reason. This agency experiences the biggest growth because of its exposure on social media. And when you comment on the video and you engage in the content, it spreads it to others. And that's how we continue to grow in an organic and a quality manner. So comment, watch, re-listen, engage, and most importantly, share it out to other people. I think the combination of what I'm going to share with you and what Adam's going to mention is going to make everybody a little bit better today. But if someone doesn't know about it, they'll never see it. Share this conversation out with others when you catch it on social media later today. So Adam's conversation today is going to be focused around keeping your carrier portfolio simple. But I was thinking when I woke up and looked at the content of today's conversation, what are some of the ways that we overcomplicate our lives and our businesses? It's fine if you've got 10 or 2 or 3 carriers in your bag. It's awesome if you go out there and sell 1 or 2 a week. Perfect. I mean, you focus on 1 or 2. You got to sell more than 1 or 2 policies. Perfectly fine. But what if everything else about your operation, everything else about your business is so overcomplicated, you couldn't make it work with one carrier? So I wanted to talk a little bit about ways that we overcomplicate our business. And then we're going to talk about ways to keep your carrier portfolio simple. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of ways that agents tend to overcomplicate their business is money management and money stress. I think stress over money is a common way that relationships crumble. People get stressed out, gray hairs appear, all kinds of anxieties, right? Stress over your money. I don't have enough. When am I getting paid? Am I getting paid enough? Are they paying on the policy fee? All kinds of craziness is all focused around money stress. Trust me, I get it. Between the last 3 months, I've probably spent more on vet bills and a wedding than I've ever spent in my entire life. I kid you not. Adam can attest by attending. It wasn't a McDonald's price kind of wedding. Cost a lot of money. The vet bills through the roof, all for an unfortunate, sad conclusion. I've spent a lot. I need to make a lot of money back. I get it. But in the process of all of that, we put a free lead program together. That cost a lot of money. We willed a direct mail program into existence. That costs a lot of money. A lot of money has been invested over the course of the last 6 months, and it can get pretty scary. But let's stop overcomplicating money and keep it really focused. Keep it really focused at a personal producer level. And let me tell you one of the ways that it's always worked really well for me when it comes to money. What's your goal? No, not your goal. Like, what is the production standard that you have to hit? And if you don't hit it, then you've got a money problem. Whatever that number is, at minimum, it needs to be 3,500. Generally speaking, 4 or 5K is a really solid number to shoot for. But once you know your number, like you've done your family budget, you've calculated in how much money you need to specifically make, you factor in your lead investment, your appointment costs, 10 or 15% for fall off, then you've got the number you have to hit. It's tangible. It's real. There's a reason behind it. It's not just some made up funny money number. Now that you know what the number is, you know that all that you need to focus on is hitting that number. Whatever it is, 3,500, 5,000, 7,500, whatever your number is, you can remain hyper-focused in achieving that specific production goal and knowing that if you're hitting that number, the money going into your bank account will be adequate, the bills will get paid, the leads will get bought, and the cycle will continue. So I want to encourage you this morning to be hyper-focused on whatever that number is, because the rest of it will work itself out. Opening your bank account is only going to do one of 2 different things to you, I believe. I could be wrong. You could think of it differently, but this is how I see it. Opening up your bank account and becoming worried about all these other numbers instead of your production goal is either going to make you lazy because you got more money than you're used to, right? Oh, I've got $6,000 I've never had in the bank before. I don't need to go out on a Thursday. I can try again next Tuesday. A dangerous mistake. Opening up your bank account and not having enough is going to make you anxious and have you focusing on something that you can't control in the wrong direction. Focusing on that production goal gives you a singular focus to go on, and you don't need to look unless you're spending 10, 12, 20,000 or whatever. Next thing I have for you this morning on overcomplicating your life before we move into a conversation about keeping your life simple is you can overcomplicate your life by not sticking to a set schedule. I mean, this is so fundamental, so final expense 101, but it's the absolute truth. You're operating a business, right? I know a lot of folks haven't made the transition yet to operating as an LLC or operating as an S Corp. So be it. But for all fundamental purposes, you're operating a real business. And guess what a real business has? A real operational schedule. And if you don't have an operational schedule and you're not a business, and what are you? Well, it's like a hobby. It's like something you just do. Like you turn on your Uber app, you go drive people around for a while. It's a hobby. Until you've committed to a set schedule, hell or high water, Monday through Friday, start of the month to the end of the month, every single month, then this isn't a real business to you. Sorry, it's the truth. If you have a real schedule and your real schedule is typically at minimum 4 field days as a personal producer, having that 5th day for flexibility, for service work, for Medicare, for senior centers, for fall off, for policy delivery, for whatever it is, that's your set schedule. That's perfectly fine. Here's the truth of it. If you were not in this business, you'd have to have a job, right? And if you had a job, no matter if it was work from home or work from an office, you'd have to show up either in person or on camera 5 days a week. So why can't you show up for yourself 5 or 4 days of those a week, right? Okay. If you had a job in a corporate position that you were making about the same amount of money that you would make as a personal producer, not only would you have to show up 5 days a week, but you'd have to travel 100 days out of the year. So why can't you give yourself a set schedule as a personal producer where hell or high water, you're in the field 4 days a week with the 5th day flexible for other needs? Now, of course, if you got a sub agency, you've trained others to do what you're doing, you got a solid base of renewals, you can kind of redirect your energy in a different direction. But to not overcomplicate your life, you have to have a set schedule that you're going to operate your life around. You have to understand the importance of putting first things first. When you get a call that says, hey, can you go to the dentist at Tuesday at 11 o'clock for your next appointment? No, that's a work day. I can go to the dentist on a Friday, a Saturday morning. You got to understand how to put first things first. When someone reaches out and says, hey, can we catch lunch on a Monday morning? No, I'm sorry. That's the busiest and biggest day of my week. I can enjoy the opportunity to have lunch and dinner with you on Friday, but I got to start my week on a Monday. You got to have a set schedule. And if you don't, you got to be real with yourself and tell yourself, I'm not operating a business. This is simply a hobby, a part-time occupation, something I do to get the bills paid, but I'm not taking what I do very seriously. So keep yourself as uncomplicated as possible by, number one, having that production standard that you know, that's all that you got to do. The money will be in the bank as long as you hit this number. And have a set schedule so that you know this is what you're going to do no matter what, no matter when, no matter how, every single day, every single week, each month of the year. So Adam, that's what I got to open with us this morning. As you want to talk about your sales week and keeping your carrier portfolio simple, I thought it made sense to kind of talk about keeping your life as simple as possible as well to open up today's conversation.
Most definitely. I think a lot of that correlates. I mean, simplicity really is key with so much of this. Keeping things simple, not overcomplicating things, and that's kind of how I've always been. So, yeah, we'll be getting to that portion of the training after I kind of run through my week, which another not very exciting week, unfortunately. I go out there with high expectations. Some weeks are better than others. And this week, I got plenty of leads. I got plenty of people to catch up with, appointments, not a ton of appointments. And those appointments that I had, a couple of them were okay, but the rest of them just didn't really get anywhere with them, or there were no shows, or some of them I showed up and couldn't even get in the door on an appointment. So it was a tough week. Like I said, though, on our training last week, I think that's, I guess I can make this real, or this is real. This is something that kind of like what Chris said, where, he saw a training where everything just looks so clean. And you could go through a presentation on a training and just make it sound super easy, make it look like a lay down, but that just doesn't really tell the whole story. And what I like about our group, and Chris and I, we're pretty straightforward with people. We're telling people like it is. We're not sugarcoating things. If I have a bad week, heck, I in my opinion, maybe other people would say that was an okay week. It just really depends on your own expectations. But when I want to write 6,000 in premium for the week and I write 2,000, to me, that's just not good enough. And that's where, if anything, I just need to maybe figure out some ways, because now, I'm about, I don't know, I would say 3 or 4 weeks in a row where I think my best week over the last 4 weeks, I maybe did 4,000 in premium where I want to be hitting 5 or 6,000. So I just need to kind of go back, figure out, reevaluate, figure out what I'm doing, figure out what I maybe had been doing in the past that I'm maybe not doing now. I'll take some time today to kind of go through that. I already have some ideas of some things that are going to help me moving forward, uh, but yeah, this week, unfortunately, it was a struggle. I mean, I got just a lot of rejection, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate that that can start to wear on you a little bit. You know, the more people are just telling you no, not interested, slamming the door in your face. But the one thing I always keep going, as I said on our training last week, uh, my whole day Tuesday just totally struck out. Zero production, lots of rejection, not getting in like hardly any houses. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. I don't like to like come up with reasons why people maybe aren't wanting to talk to me right now, but sometimes I just wonder if it has a lot to do with things going on in the world and with the election coming up. There's a lot of unsurety and just a lot of stuff on people's minds. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But yeah, all day Wednesday, same thing, you know, shut down all day. I finally wrote one, my last stop, my last appointment of the day. It was a husband and wife, and I just wrote the husband. The wife was pretty well set. She had a policy that she'd been paying into for like 20 years. It was a whole life policy. I told her, you know, it's a good policy. Don't get rid of it. You're fully covered. You're paying a good price for it, and it's a, you know, it's a good product. So, but I think people like that too. That I don't just go in doing what I can to try to replace business that doesn't need to be replaced. I think that kind of right away builds a little bit of confidence or a little bit of trust in myself with the client. Because I think a lot of times right away, that's all the agent's thinking about is they're looking out for themselves more than they're looking out for the client. And they're in those sort of scenarios, they might see, well, they've had this policy 20 years. There's a lot of cash value there. We could, you know, reduce pay up this policy and get her set up with a new one. But honestly, that would not have been in her best interest. So, I mean, probably would have been in my best interest. But like I said, I mean, do what's right for your people and you'll get paid back time and time again. So wrote the husband. He didn't have any coverage. They didn't have a whole lot of extra money. I think it was like 740, something like that in premium. And then my day yesterday. Oh, and you know, another thing, Wednesday, I had sorry, my dog's barking, then I lose my train of thought. Uh Wednesday, one thing that kind of screwed me up too. I had an appointment that was like an hour and a half away with traffic, and I had nothing else in that area to do that day. And I mean, I went out there, got stuck in a lot of traffic, and it was just like a total waste of time. The person that I wrote Wednesday night was actually an appointment that was set for me for Thursday, but I saw in the notes that they said that they could meet with me at like 4 o'clock on Wednesday. So it was like a little after 2 o'clock, and I was leaving that appointment that was a total waste of time way up north. And I called the guy. I said, "Yeah, I saw our appointment setters had set me up for me to come tomorrow, but I saw that you could meet me at 4 today. How about I just swing by now?" And he said, "Oh, sure." And so that's really what kind of saved me from striking out 2 days in a row. Getting to be able to get on that last appointment, and you know, I just always like going home with at least something. But then, yeah, yesterday, like I said, just a whole lot of more of the same. I had some appointments set, but they just, the first one, I showed up. The son came to the door, and he's like, "Oh no, he don't need to talk to you. He's good," and like slammed the door on me. And then the next one was a no show, and then the next one was a no show. So like 3 in a row. Actually, 4. Yeah, I had 4 appointments that I just was totally just nothing. So, I mean, that was just kind of how my week went. And again, I mean, like I always say, the appointment setters, it's just their job to set up appointments. It's my job to do the rest. So maybe I need to get better. Um, so again, they put me in front of the people. Heck, if they weren't home, they weren't home. What are you going to do? I could have called and set up an appointment. The person may not have been home either. You can't blame the appointment setters for that. But then same thing. Finally, I'm like driving to my last appointment, like saying a prayer last night. Like, please, I got to write something. I don't want to go home without anything. And I show up and I ring the doorbell, and right away they like remember. They both kind of like hopped up out of their chairs and came to the front door. Husband had on a Walter Payton Bears jersey. The wife had on a Jason Kelsey Eagles jersey. And I'm like, man, I think I got my sale, because I know I can relate to these people. I'm a big Eagles fan. I like the Bears too. And just kind of right away kind of opened up the conversation with just something relatable to kind of talk to. And, we just kind of hit it off, honestly. It was good conversation. The guy grew up like in the same area I did. He went to the same grade school as me, like just kind of started talking a lot about stuff, and ended up writing the wife. He was still working. He had coverage on his job, and they could really only afford one policy. And the wife was 11 years older than him, and she didn't have as much coverage, so she really needed it. Ended up writing her. I ended up writing her. It was like $1,200 in premium, and that was the new. For those of you that are watching live, Chris had on the Transamerica pullover, looking real snazzy today, Chris. And so I wrote it. Yeah, it was the Transamerica, the Express policy, and again, there's the added benefits with that, with the Everest. And just something that I think adds a little bit of value to the sale. But like I said, in the end, it was just kind of nice, kind of like a breath of fresh air, meeting with some good people that kind of hit it off, and kind of went home with a much better mindset or attitude than I had pretty much the rest of the week. I mean, I had another one earlier yesterday. It was, I door knocked the lady, like, I don't know, it was probably like 3 weeks ago, and she couldn't meet me at the time. She said, all right, well, why don't you come back next Wednesday at like 9:00? And I said, okay, sure. So this would have been like 2 weeks ago. I showed up Wednesday at 9:00, and I showed up. Nobody was home. No show. Yesterday, I showed back up at the lady's house a couple weeks after she blew me off on the appointment. And and I show up, and I was like, yeah, hey, remember me, Adam? I was over, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. We had set up that appointment. And then when I came by, you weren't here. And she's like, yeah, well, you know what? I just don't know who you are. I don't trust people. I don't just let anybody into my home, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, why would you have set up an appointment with me then? I even told, I'm like, why waste my whole morning to come see you? When you really didn't want to meet with me anyways. And she didn't really have anything to say. And I was just kind of like, screw you, and moved on to the next. But like I said, it was just a lot of my week went that way. Just a lot of sour people. But what are you going to do? Like I said, just got to kind of keep going, keep moving forward. And, this is it for me. I can't go. I don't want to go work at Kohl's. So, we'll figure it out. Everything will be fine.
I think what's interesting, will be a live across the board in just a moment. I want to make sure I wrap this up on the conference call. The people that need what you have, the people that have a need for what you're there for, and just keep fighting for that person. I mean, so many people in this industry can't even get their ass out of bed on a Friday, but they've got plenty of reasons to complain about why they don't have enough money. Like, be real with yourself. You have what it takes. You have to be willing to keep things simple, not overcomplicate the business, and find the people that need what you have. We've all been in those moments before, and I'll wrap with this comment, and then we'll take it live and off the conference call. We've all been in those moments where we woke up, we got in the car, we got dressed, and we said the silent prayer to whoever we pray to. Just give me somebody with that overpriced senior life policy. Just give me somebody with 3 or 4 Colonial pens. Just give me someone that's purchased, gosh, something from Banker's Life or maybe AARP. Give me somebody with a great personality, who garbage policy that I can get in there and do what I do best. Just give me one of them. And guess what? If you put yourself out there with that attitude and that effort and that intentionality, you're going to find that person. So go out there today and do that. If you're going on the conference call and you're on your way out to the field, we appreciate you being on. Stay out there and refuse to come home empty-handed. And if you're on with us live and you're watching, drop a comment and let's enjoy the next 30 minutes of conversation about keeping your carrier portfolio simple. I'm going to hang up on the conference call and join us live on StreamYard, YouTube, and Facebook, and we'll see you over there. You know, Adam, I was thinking it's so easy to say it. It's far harder to practice it. And I think sometimes the reason why people aren't willing to practice it is, I don't know. Like, I just never wanted to ever give up and say I couldn't pull it off. Like, once I get in a routine, I want to stay in a routine. Once I've seen that it can work, I want to keep it working. And it's like maybe that middle ground that we talk about all the time between where you were, where you want to be, and what you're willing to do to get there. So I can kind of relate to a lot about what you said today. And I think it's important that we're be real with people. You know, there's so much fake and fraud and fluff on social media. It's easy to recruit to that. Oh, you know, you can make $20,000 this week. I mean, maybe you probably could, but let's be realistic. What can you do every single week? Oh, you know, you can buy a big fancy Bentley. Well, you could also put an S Corp together and save for your taxes. Oh, well, you know, you could recruit 100 people and all those people will turn into successes, and they won't. Like, I think it's so important. And if that means all we're ever going to build is 25, 50, or 75 people, I'll go to my grave knowing I was honest to them the entire time. So let's talk about keeping the carrier portfolio simple, unless you have any other thoughts you wanted to share. I think you got to check your audio. You might still be on free conference call. Give us just a minute here to get the audio situated, as we usually find ourselves in the middle of the conversation which is okay. Aaron, Tom, if y'all are watching live on StreamYard or Facebook, just drop me a comment so I know that you can hear me loud and clear and I'm not talking to myself in this fancy pullover today. That would be weird, right? Like all this and no one can hear me. Just drop a comment if you could that you can hear me live, and we'll get Adam's audio straightened in just a moment. Adam, I think I can hear you. There we go. Aaron said I'm clear. I can hear you now. What do you think? Like,
oh, okay. You probably heard me cuss then.
That's okay. I think a lot of people, you know, they want to be recruited to fluff. They want to be told they can make $1 million in a week. They want to be told, we know, by getting in their pajamas, they can buy a Bentley. And maybe it's our biggest failing, not selling or not recruiting to fluff. But what do you think?
Well, you know what? I don't think I want to work with people that are just going to buy into that sort of stuff. Honestly, to me, someone who, you know, has realistic expectations kind of can see through that stuff, I would think. There's no way that a brand new agent can make $20,000 their first week in the business. If anyone's telling you that, they're full of it. This business, I wish I could say this business is easy. It's not. Places make it out to be easy, and it's not. You know, you got to put the time in. You got to be consistent with your business. You got to purchase leads on a regular basis. You got to be able to keep up with that. Yeah, you can do really well. Yeah, you can make a lot of money, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's about, and I always tell people, really, the first 9 months is the hardest. You know, make it past those first 9 months, then you start to have some back end commissions and everything else. But I think when you're surrounded by people that are kind of all in it together, kind of like what we built, I think that helps. I think that makes a difference. And that's something that people could, you know, there's other agents out there. Maybe they had a week like I had, and they're like, this is enough. You know, this is enough for me. I can't handle all that rejection. And, I'm just going to go back to finding a 9 to 5 sort of, set salary position where to me, I don't know, you're kind of minimizing your potential, in my opinion, when you could bet on yourself, as I've always said, and get out there and you're the one in our business that can decide how much money you want to make, but you got to be willing to put the time in. So I know that's not really our topic for today, but I know talking about these different places that recruit. And I've had conversations with agents. We have these recruiting calls. People reach out to us and, everything sounds really good, Adam, but I already talked to this other place that told me that within a month or two, I'd be making $20,000 a week. Well, good luck. Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, fill me in.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that sounds pretty good.
Just on the same token, I talked to a fair amount of people because it's just a volume game, just like selling insurances, that want a base. I'm looking for a base salary plus commission. Oh, okay. Well, what are you looking for salary wise? And I'm just trying to keep the conversation going, between $18 to $20 an hour. Okay. You think you're worth more than that though? Well, I just need it. I just need a base salary plus commission. All right, well, let's walk through the numbers together. What does that look like? And if that's the salary that you want to make and the life you want to live, that is absolutely your American choice. But if you have an insurance license and you're willing to bet on yourself a little bit, you're worth more than a base salary plus commission. Heck, on the lowest contract we could possibly offer on free live transfer leads, I can make you more money. But you got to be willing to make that commitment to yourself. Like we say all the time in all the content we've shared over the course of the last 2 years, if you have the desire to make it work, raise your hand and we'll find a way to make this work together. We've got agents on free leads. We got agents that buy leads. We got agents that do Medicare over the phone, agents that do both in person. If there's a will, we're going to help you find a way to put it together. But so we don't take up too much of your time, we're going to talk about keeping our carrier portfolio simple. And I'm going to open with one comment about that. In a time and a place where direct mail costs more money, where it's harder to work. Let's just be real. It's a little harder. Where people are harder to get on the phone, a little meaner in person. You're going to have to be a little bit more efficient with your business. In a time and a place where you can't just sell final expense like it's 2016. You only have so much room in your brain for other products. I literally cannot fit more information in my brain. I can sell 3 final expense products, all the Medicare crap I got to learn, understand the ancillary portfolio, and that's all the room that I have. So when we talk about keeping your carrier portfolio simple today, it's so that you also have the neurological space available for cross-selling and all the additional products you're able to sell. So Adam, what you got on the presentation today?
Yeah, I figure we just kind of have some conversation about this, honestly. I mean, I think that, there's a lot of places out there too, where it's like they're throwing 20 contracts at an agent right away. I feel like that can be very overwhelming, especially when you got to learn, for really, I mean, things that really shortcut it are like toolkits and things like that when it comes to underwriting. But there's still a lot of back office stuff that you have to learn. And it like I said, I think it can overwhelm an agent when they're contract with all these different companies that all do the same thing. So really, I just kind of wanted to talk about reasoning like behind only needing maybe 3 or 4 carriers and why that is really something to your advantage, only focusing on a few carriers rather than having business all over the place. And, a few things that come to mind for me would be, you write a piece of business with one carrier, it falls off, and then you're writing with the next one, and then you're writing with the next one. You end up, you're setting yourself up for bad business, chargebacks, everything else with a whole lot of different carriers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that that's something right there, and I mean, how are you going to make another thing I think about too, things that motivate me, carrier conventions, being able to qualify for a trip. If you're writing business with 20 different companies, it's going to be real tough to qualify for a convention.
Yeah, you're not. You're just literally not.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I've qualified for my fair share of trips. You probably qualified for more. And the mentality is you have to go into the home looking to write that company, even in the margins, like even in the situations where it might be a dollar or two or five more, you got to write it like 86% of the time. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to write enough business to hit it. I mean, we got guys in the agency like Bob Eckert who have qualified for trips writing predominantly one company. He's writing a lot of Baltimore Life now because leading with one company makes your life a whole lot simpler. My philosophy on it is also there are a lot of duplicate products out there. Like they may not be clones of each other. There are even carriers that are clones of each other. But there's a lot of products that, for all intents and purposes, are really the same thing. Like let's look back before Prosperity exited the market. Between American Amicable and Prosperity, there was not a ton of differences. Yeah, one took Direct Express, one didn't. But if you really got into the meat potatoes of the underwriting and the pricing and the comp and the process, it's kind of the same thing. Like you look at a Mutual of Omaha and a Life Shield. Yeah, very price competitive, very similar face amounts, very similar. But like really, when you get down to it, there's a lot of duplicate products. You know, you only need so many price busting fraternals with low commission. They're all kind of built on the same chassis. What you need, in my opinion, is one company that you can sell 80 to 85% of the time. When I was qualifying for Transamerica Hawaii, I sold a ton of Transamerica Immediate Solutions. It was stressful. The process sucked, but you could write 80% of your business with it. You need a second company that you can do 10 to 15% of what the other one didn't do good. And then you need a third modified-ish company that you don't know what else to do. Here's your whole last resort kind of company. Because if you're going to learn Medicare, ancillary products, have a life outside of the business, raise your kids, manage your business, pay your taxes, there's only so much room in your brain. And realistically, like you're saying, you start selling 4, 5, 6, 7 companies, you're going to start carrying debt. You're going to start forgetting how to do it. You're not going to be doing it right. It's not actually going to be getting issued. Like we've tried it. We've done it. Adam, when I left my first organization, NASB, 5 years ago, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get a release, I didn't realize that in that 1 month, I had literally written everything in my carrier portfolio. I'm like, damn it, all of them. Well, if you had just written a couple, it would have made the process a lot simpler back then. So that's kind of my philosophy on why you only need 3, because you got all that other stuff you got to fit in your head.
Yeah, well, another thing, Chris, debt doesn't just go away on its own.
Nope.
And, it's not magically just going to disappear. And I understand, I get it. People are out there working, they got to earn money, they got to pay their bills. But what happens when you owe one carrier, a drastic amount of money, and then they terminate you, and then they throw you on Vector, and then all your other carriers put you on as earned? What happens then? I know I've seen that happen. There's checks out there. I mean, the company I used to work with, I know that like every month they'd be running this check that would show any agents that were on Vector. And right away they would want to make sure that the agent was set up. They wanted proof that agent was set up on a payment plan. And if they weren't, they would either put them on as earned, or they would give them 30 days to get put on a payment plan. And so just little things like that. I mean, people, again, we talk about stuff, Chris, that I feel like other places maybe don't want to talk about. We talk about, the stuff that people they kind of shoo away from or shy away from, but it's part of the business. And like I said, I mean, forever, I mean, I was always just about keeping it simple. I mean, for me, writing with 3 or 4 carriers is a lot. I mean, I went from one company for 11 and a half years, strictly writing them and nobody else, to another company, strictly writing them for 6, 7 years, something like that. And I did just fine. I did just fine writing business with those 2 carriers. It's not like I really was walking away from much business, if any. I mean, the only business I was really walking away from was probably not very good quality business anyways. And if people were in that poor of health, the chances of them living a long time are pretty slim anyways. So sometimes I feel like agents, they feel like they need to write every single piece of business out there. if it don't feel like it's a good business to write, you don't have to write it. And again, sometimes, we look at like some of these guaranteed issue products. Heck, if that's a big risk, if there's a chance that person might be dying soon, unfortunately.
Gonna charge back.
You're setting yourself up for chargeback.
Yeah.
And some of those companies too, Chris, I know the guaranteed issue, they'll charge you back the whole thing. They might charge you back 22 months if that person dies before the first 2 years are up.
Yeah, which really leads me to my next point about this. I'm just trying to put a couple of these out on some of the groups so folks can watch as well. We test all the companies, like all the ones, some of the ones you've never heard before and shouldn't hear about. We've tested nearly all of them. And we test them because we want to make sure that there isn't some serious fatal flaw that if we roll it out to somebody, promote it, contract to it, post it on social media, that it messes you up. Like I could afford to put enough not bad business, but inefficient business on the books to find out it didn't work without losing my house. There are plenty of agents that need every single application to pay every single bill. And if it doesn't work, that's bad. We've written companies before and somebody will text me, why'd you pick them? Honestly, I'm just trying it out to see if it's something I want to encourage you to sell or to see if it's not any good. Every company, let me be real as well as we talk about keeping your carrier portfolio simple. And for those that are watching, this is a very practical point. Every carrier has something about it that sucks, like awful. They all have something that isn't very good about them. You personally just have to decide if you tolerate that particular suck or if that's fine. Every carrier no one product is perfect. Adam Senior Life just terminated 2 of their biggest agencies. Lincoln Heritage terminated big agency owners before. That sucks for them. But guess what? As brokers, as independent agents and agencies, we're never single carrier dependent. So even when carriers shut their doors over the last 6 months, we didn't have to recreate the business model because we had plenty of other ones to use. So I think that's also a blessing in disguise.
It really is. I mean, I kind of, I came from, Lincoln was like one of the first main companies that I was with for over 11 years. And I remember like just kind of like the culture and the way that it works there. I mean, you really do start to feel like you are like an employee almost, like even though you're not, it feels because they do make it feel kind of like a captive sort of operation. And the way that they do their leads and the convenience and everything else, it is kind of, a lot of agents are scared about, what were to happen if I ever were to lose my contract here, because they get comfortable and they kind of like having the simplicity of everything. But most agents, they make it through that. Like they come to realize that, once you figure this out, I mean, you can handle it on your own as long as you're willing to. And there's other places out there that have programs that work. We have a good thing going, Chris, with our free lead program where the comp, lower comp to start, but you're not paying for your leads. Honestly, probably a better situation than a brand new person going to a place like, a couple of those companies that you mentioned that finance their leads and start you on a low comp. So, there's ways to do this, and there's people out there that are willing to help you. But yeah, we talk about, just having like a handful of carriers. There's really not like a one size fits all perfect carrier like what you were saying, Chris. I wish there was. I was getting ready this morning and I was thinking about that. Like if there was a carrier that, had very loose underwriting and had great rates, they took just about everybody. That's where I would write all of my business, but that's where everybody would write all their business.
Yeah.
And they'd probably be out of business.
Yeah. Because guess what? The insurance carriers don't want all your business. They don't. These insurance carriers have specific production numbers that they're looking to hit because they have to have a specific amount of reserves to pay out first year commissions and to pass regulatory standards, certain growth projections, certain fall off they're willing to tolerate. There's only so much business these companies want. A lot of times the things that they suck about are actually what business prevention techniques they kind of just leave in there so it doesn't get too out of control. There is not going to be a perfect company, but between a good blend of 3 companies, I think some other important things to think about is you need a company that you can sell on Monday so that by Friday you can pay for your leads. That's important. Not a lot of companies pay on issue nowadays, but you need one of them that does. Adam Forrester's used to be that for me back in 2015, 2016. And I kid you not, I was like hunting like a hungry whatever, finding that first Forrester's app I could write on a Monday so that I didn't have to worry about Friday with money for leads. You need a company that, maybe it pays you next month and that's okay too. But I've seen some big deposits from companies that I waited till next month to get paid on all that business for. And that worked fine too. And I think another thing that sometimes agents don't think about is and I'd love your opinion about this, when you get your financial footing behind you, like money's okay. You got your emergency savings, your taxes are under control, buying leads isn't an issue. You can start to lower your advances. You can move from a 9-month to a 6-month. You can take your number 3 carrier and put it on as earned. You can take from 6 months to 3 months. You can take your number 2 carrier and put it on as earned. When I was in high-speed personal producer mode, I had every single company, but a lot of the companies that I sold maybe 1 or 2 times a quarter, I'd rather just take them as earned and take them as they come, because you do have that ability, and most uplines are never going to tell you this, but to back down your advances as you increase your bank account.
Yeah, well, a few things there, Chris. Kind of going back to what you were talking about with getting paid on issue versus getting paid on draft. Really, it doesn't make a difference. I think it makes more sense to get paid on issue because you're going to get paid faster. It's really not safer to get paid on draft. Like people might think it is, but it's like the carrier, they're still paying the agent before that payment is even clearing on their side. So what's the difference? Whether they're paying you on issue or draft, either way, it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's like the same risk.
Yeah.
Unless they're waiting a week after the draft, once they know that payment's already cleared. But most companies that I know of, they don't do that because they know agents don't want to wait that long to get paid.
Liberty Bankers used to do that. They had a third option where it was pay me on draft and then like 2 weeks later when the draft is cleared. But really nobody does that anymore. So just write good business, for God's sake. Collect a payment on the moment that you're there. Like, there are ways to deal with it, but getting paid on a quick manner is important to me.
Yeah, just setting draft days properly is the key, really, in my opinion. Setting people to coincide with their Social Security. If you're not, I don't know why you wouldn't. But then, like what you were saying about, kind of going on like a lower advance. I know agents that have done that, and they at first, or actually, I had an agent, my prior company, that was having some persistency issues, and I was able to talk the higher ups into putting them on a 6-month advance. They wanted to put him on like a as earned, and I said, why don't we just lower his advance and just kind of go from there? And at first the agent was a little upset, but over time he even told me, I kind of like it. I kind of like that 6-month advance. Yeah, I don't see as much up front, but now I'm in like month 7 and 8 and 9, and all of a sudden I got all this good money coming in. He actually, I think he ended up maybe switching some of his other contracts to like a 6-month advance, where, you don't see as much up front, but it does help you. You have a bad week or something, it always helps to have a little bit more of a cushion, or at least some money that is going to be coming in. So
I think that also comes from having a long-term vision. Like, yes, you are going to make less money up front, but I did the same thing. I moved a carrier from 9 to 6, and then as soon as month 7 hit, I'm like, whoa, look at these deposits I'm getting for stuff that's stuck on the books. It's a short-term, pain point, but it does improve you long-term. We did have a question from Aaron that I would love for us to answer in our final 10 or 12 minutes. And I just realized you can push a button and the whole question pops up, which is pretty cool. She asked a question about the objections, call me after the election, concerns about the economy. And I'm thinking that this is going to make for an amazing long-form training on Monday, but it really harkens back, in my opinion, to manifesting. What is it? Like, you get what you're looking for. You create what you're trying to find. I had this conversation with another one of our agents on Thursday. He's dealing with different mindset frustrations. And I said, if you're looking for negativity, negativity is going to find you. If you're assuming bad things are going to happen to you, bad things are going to happen to you. Or at worst, you're not going to break out of the bad thing quicker than you would have otherwise. So what do you think when you're dealing with situations where these same kind of frustrations and challenges and objections and concerns are constantly popping up? Are we manifesting them ourselves? Or do we just need a quick answer on how to overcome them when they come up?
Yeah, we could be manifesting them ourselves. I am so much about mindset. And like I said earlier, sometimes the rejection can start to wear on you. And that does mess with your head a little bit. Where really, if anything, need to figure out ways to kind of get right back into that positive mindset, maybe brush things off a little bit faster and don't let it affect you so much, because that's what happens. Like I said, I think that's probably what's happened to me the last few weeks. Just the rejection starts to wear on me. I think too much about it. And then I don't feel like you're really at the top of your game when you're sitting with people. You almost, it's almost like you're just waiting for them to tell you no, because that's what you've been hearing so much.
Man, I know that bank objection's coming. I know they're going to tell me they can't, they're not going to give me their bank information. It's coming. I know it's the next thing they're going to say. I know it's coming. They're going to say they have to talk to their kids about it. They're going to have to say they have to wait until after. You kind of like, it's almost as if as much as you can preempt an objection, you can create one out of thin air the same way. It's crazy.
Yeah, most definitely. I wanted to go back to Chris, talking about, the different carriers. I know you mentioned how a lot of the different carriers, like you said, they don't want all of your business. And, you think about like modified rates, and you look at some of the carriers and you look at like how high their modified rates are. It's like that's on purpose. They don't want to come straight out and say, we're not going to insure these people, because again, that would make them look bad, because all the other carriers are kind of doing the same thing. So people that have significant health issues within the last 2 years, they don't want that business. It's really not profitable. And that's why they put the rates up to where they're at. Like they'll take the business, but they know that by having those rates as high as they have them, they're not going to get a ton of it. So the risk is pretty limited.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, that's why there really isn't that one size fits all. There was one earlier this year, I don't have to name names. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but there was one earlier this year where, no RX check. We take congestive heart failure day one, as long as they're compliant with going to the doctor and taking their medications. Like, that's risky business. And I think, sooner or later, I think they start to realize, wow, we're assuming a lot more risk. All of a sudden, then they add in the RX check, which is it's gonna be used to protect them a little bit.
Yeah. But the issue is in a broker space, and we've had these discussions with guests and stuff, is agents anti-select the heck out of companies, and actuaries don't understand agents. Like, that's just the reality of life. Like, physicians don't understand paramedics to the same degree. School administrators may not understand paraprofessionals. There's just a gap between the different jobs that we do. Actuaries definitely don't understand what we do. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into a home and figure out the best choice, and then the next company, the best choice, the next company, the best choice. And the company isn't getting the actuarial mix they expected. Steve Weber said it to me before. He knew that Transamerica was getting anti-selected for just standard rate business. So what did Transamerica do? They built a standard rate product so that they weren't going to get continually anti-selected and not get a good, healthy mix of business. Adam, I don't know if you remember Settlers Life?
I remember them, but they were real big, when I was with that employee with that one company.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't contracted with them, but I remember like they were, they were pretty hot there for a while. And And again, I think it was, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming they had really, really good rates and just made it easy to do business with them. But that, I guess, caught up with them because they're no
Well,
longer in business.
unfortunately, someone bought them and decided they didn't want to continue final expense distribution. But the interesting thing about what they did is they had a preferred tier, a standard tier, and a modified product that had like 3 questions. You can't be bedbound, HIV, or terminally ill. And they called it their bronze plan. And they wanted all of your business to the point where they even had that bronze product and they even had limited pay options on it. I'm like, how cool is this? You could be on a 10 pay on dialysis. It was amazing. But smartly enough, only a certain percentage of your business could be bronze business or they wouldn't take it. So they understood the balancing act there that was necessary because that small company at its time actually understood the marketplace. And I think when we're talking about selling just 1, 2, or 3 companies, not just one, but like a mix of 3, it's fair to the company too. Like these companies can't afford to continue to keep the products as is if all they're getting is your massively overweight COPDers with 8 toes. They just can't do it.
Yeah.
Giving them a healthy mix of not just giving everybody your modified card business like everybody did to SNL for 7 years is eventually going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
Not just writing. It's got to have a healthy mix just to, because in the end, there's a 3-legged stool that we all operate and sit on. What's best for the client, what's best for the agent/agency, and what's best for the carrier. And I forget the guy that said it, but one of the legends in the industry said, if you treat the carrier like you own it, that's the best way to treat them. So understanding that 3-legged stool on that 3-carrier balance, I think is the biggest takeaway I could leave people with today.
Yeah, and I'll run down mine real quick. I'm not afraid to kind of throw the carriers out there that I like to use and the reasoning behind them. Chris, I mean, that the last couple years, I'd say, close to a couple years now, I've been running with AmAm, American Amicable. I've enjoyed doing business with them. I think they're good people over there. And my favorite thing about them, honestly, is that they make my job easier because they're one of the only carriers I know of that when I run the e-app, if it comes back other than applied for, they let you know why. There's medications that pop up that they ask you about. The one last night that I wrote, I originally I was writing it with American Amicable, and it came back some medication that she was taking. I forget, some sort of stomach issue or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but American Amicable wanted to put it to graded. And it was based off of this medication that this lady had to take like 3 months prior to like this surgery that she had to have that fixed the issue. But anyways, from there, I knew the reasoning behind their decision, but my goal is still to be able to get that person covered right away. So that's where then I shifted to the new Transamerica product that, the shirt that you have on there, Chris. They seem to be maybe a little bit more lenient on some health issues than American Amicable. So that's kind of right now, I go American Amicable. I like to know, if it doesn't work there, at least they're giving me the reasoning why that's going to make my life easier, where I'm not just playing guessing games, trying to figure out where to put that business. And then I'll try them, the Transamerica Express, the FE Express policy. And then after that, Baltimore Life, I've seen that maybe they're even a little bit more lenient than Transamerica on some things. Baltimore Life, with like the COPD and stuff like that. They pull out a bunch of inhalers and stuff. That might be the first place I turn to, even before trying to do an app somewhere else. So, and then from there, just like a guaranteed issue, the Royal Arc, Royal Arcanum I've been using. It's not a true guaranteed issue, but it's basically a guaranteed issue. I don't know anything that they're not going to take.
Yeah. If they don't get that, it's probably not worth it.
But it's easy. It's an easy app. They're fraternal. I'm sure they don't want just that business. I'm sure they have their other whole life product as well. I'm sure they want a mix. I'm sure they don't just want the guaranteed issue, but again, yeah, maybe, run into some younger people, that could be an option as well. Their standard whole life product, but yeah, that's really it. That's really the four that I've been focusing on. And honestly, I mean, I couldn't remember the last time I wrote an app with any but those four, just because of the fact that I like to keep it simple.
Yeah.
On the one, if it doesn't work there, well, then I kind of know where to turn to from there, like what you said.
I got a few more to throw in there for you and some interesting insights kind of to back and forth that one before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Guaranteed trust life over any kind of guaranteed issue product. Like maybe you don't have a Royal Arcanum for one reason or the other, but realistically, you can do all you need with GTL the same way.
Yep.
And you don't need GI if you have GTL. I'll leave it at that. GTL has a great ancillary product portfolio. I think maybe Bankers Life might be nice. I'm kind of trying to see where they fit in the bag lately, but GTL over any kind of GI. You don't need Aetna, Aflac, and AHL. One of those three is literally the same thing. It's great that there's different versions and different brandings, but it's the same product. If you can have Aetna Senior products, it also gives you access to the other ancillary products that they offer. You don't need three of the same thing. A Cincinnati Equitable, actually a nice, awesome, small mom and pop company in about 9 states, takes Direct Express, instant decision e-application. You can literally write husbands and wives at the same time. Good comp, not the cheapest rates, but if you have them, it's worth writing them. Liberty Bankers, I think, kind of fell out of popularity for no particular reason. 18 to 80. Realistically, you can get somebody onboarded with Liberty Bankers in like 6 minutes and then send them out in the field next week and see if they do their job. Baltimore Life. Again, you've already said it, so there's not much that I need to say there, but their A priority product on top of iProvide is absolutely awesome. Instant decision, awesome product. And just understanding that relationships matter too. We love to do business with relationship-based companies, people that have an investment in the field, understand distribution, are willing to work with agent partners in situations where maybe they don't come in with a squeaky clean record, but they're willing to give them a look again. And understanding the power of those type of relationships. I think if you're watching out there, carrier partners, we appreciate those that look at us in a mutually beneficial relationship.
Most definitely. So yeah, I think that's probably about all we got for today. So yeah, if there's any other questions, feel free to throw them out there. But yeah, thanks again. Oh, Gary asked.
Yeah, Gary asked, do we use Citizens? I think Adam dropped off by accident. In the states that we have them, we absolutely do write them. In the states that we don't, we don't. They did recently add that underwriting protection to their product. So Citizens is being smart, but now being a little bit stricter. Pearl asked the question, how do I access the recordings? Everything is available on our YouTube channel. Insurance, there it is, life, and everything in between. Nearly 400 recordings, including conversations like this, including conversations like my sales presentation, conversations about Medicare, final expense, baseball. If you are an agency partner of ours, in our Google Drive, 4 years of morning call training is available for audio on-demand listening there, and as well as the podcast. Adam has us on literally every kind of podcast platform as well. That's available for you guys to listen to as well.
And yeah, I was going to tell Gary, I think, because I was talking about the different carriers. Sika is not in Illinois. So
not in Maryland.
I've been able to market them to help agents who want to use them because they are pretty easy, I think. But yeah, I haven't had the ability personally to be able to write business with them because they're not in Illinois and I write my business face to face. So yeah, unfortunately, I haven't really been able to use them. I am able to market them, which I know when people want them, well, great. I'll do what I can to help you get them. But yeah, like I said, keeping it simple, focusing on 3 or 4 carriers, and that's really all you need, and if places out there are trying to contract you as an agent out there with 20 different companies, ask yourself why. Why do I need to be contracted with all of these carriers? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they just want to lock you up. They want to lock you up and make it difficult. Like if you decided that maybe you wanted to move forward somewhere else, well, if they got all your contracts locked up, makes it maybe a little bit more difficult. So, be aware of that. If anything, when you join a group, tell them, well, I only need maybe 3 or 4. I don't want a contract with all those different carriers. Give me like 3 or 4 that you think I need, and that's all I need. Because you don't have to sign a contract with every single carrier just because your IMO is telling you that you need a contract with them.
Yeah, our philosophy is we get you one and we want to see what you do with it, like in the next 7 days. Whatever one comes out first, typically, hopefully one that pays pretty good. But we're going to get you one, and then I want to see if you're going to go run and gun with it. And then I promise you, we will add more as you go, as they become available. But all you need is one thing to get started. And then as a veteran producer, I'm going to try other stuff out, and I'm going to try to encourage you to try it out because everyone's preferences may be different. Everyone needs may be different. And we're always going to remain on the cutting edge so that if one day you wake up and your favorite toy came off the market on a Friday, you're not going to miss a beat on a Monday. But it only takes one to run and gun, and then we'll take care of adding the rest as we go.
All right. Well, y'all have a great week. Thanks again.
Take care.